Cimoooooooo. What's going on, guys? It's Cimoooooooo. So today I'm bringing to you my top 5 competitive budget decks for the November 2019 format. Now yesterday I brought to you my top 5 meta decks of the format, and the day prior I brought to you my competitive tier list of how I feel the format's going to shape up as we move deeper into the month of November. But I'm fully cognizant of the fact that some of you guys may not be able to afford full play sets of Fantastical Dragon Phantazmay or Pot of Extravagance or Infinite Impermanence or a card like Appaloosa. These cards are really expensive, and I'm fully aware of that. So that's why today I'm bringing to you 5 decks that you can take to any tier of competitive play, see a lot of success with, and you could build for about $100, both main and extra deck. The only thing I ask is that if you guys end up purchasing any of these decks, is to use my TCG Player affiliate link down in the description below. That way you're helping support the channel for absolutely no cost of your own, because that's going to come straight from TCG Player just for showing your support and using my affiliate link. And also too, if you want to look for the next big event to compete at, we have Pro Play Tour Dallas coming up on November 23rd and 24th. It's a $2,000 cash prize pool event, only $20 to enter. If you get your invite, which is top 32, you're going to be entered into the $10,000 invitational taking place in January. And also we have a 3v3 Chaos Impact case tournament taking place on Sunday. The event's going to be live streamed. I'll be there doing live stream commentary coverage, and the links are down in the description if you want to pre-register for that event as well. So I hope to see you guys there, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Kicking things off with number 5, we have one of the veterans of the competitive budget tier list, and that is going to be True Draco. Yes, True Draco still living large on the competitive budget list, and for good reason. One of those reasons being the fact that because it's True Draco, you don't necessarily need an extra deck, and that can save you on so much money, because sometimes the extra deck can actually cost you more than the main deck. Now, just because you can play True Draco without an extra deck doesn't mean that you necessarily should. The reason for that is because you can main deck a card like Super Poly, and when you're playing a budget deck, you need to have as many unfair advantages as possible, and Super Poly, especially for this current metagame, might just be one of them. When you got decks like Salamangreat and Orcas and all these other dark focus decks running around, main decking some Super Polys can just give you that edge that you need, clear your opponent's board, set up your own, and you should be looking pretty good, and you can win a lot of matches that you probably shouldn't have ended up winning. You can also play some generic link monsters like Nightmare Phoenix, because you are going to be playing a card like Crackdown to steal your opponent's monsters to interrupt their plays, and that way you can actually proactively use those monsters to your advantage rather than just having them sit there if you're not playing an extra deck. Now, not playing an extra deck has its advantages as well, because you can play a card like Monarchs Erupt, which requires you not to have an extra deck, and by doing so, you basically have access to 4 really copies of Skill Drain if you opt to play the one main deck Skill Drain entirely, but you're also going to be playing There Can Be Only One and just a slew of really strong floodgates to back all the consistent spell cards like Card of Demise, Dragonic Diagram, which are like really the only truly expensive cards in this deck, and then you've got the True Draco monsters, which are advantage generating machines in their own right. The deck's just really solid. I mean, it took second place at the UDS in Panama, and I'll go ahead and show you guys that list, and you could easily build this list here for under $100, main and extra deck. So for those reasons, that's why I went ahead and put True Draco in my number 5 slot. But coming in at number 4, we have a deck that you may not expect to be on this list whatsoever, but I gave you guys a solid recommendation on this last list because it was prior to the October 2019 ban list, and that's going to be Sky Striker. Yeah, now I know what you're thinking. You're like, how the hell is Sky Striker budget in any means? Well, last time when I recommended you guys pick this deck up, remember, Engage had actually just gotten its 3rd reprint, and this card has been at an all-time low in terms of price, and this was really the barrier into getting Sky Striker. And the thing is, I told you guys that if you invested in it, there is a chance and a very strong likelihood that the deck would get hit, which it did, but it's still able to see competitive play. It's been able to top pretty much every event even after the October 2019 ban list, which is crazy. But the thing is, even the first place deck list from YCS London is completely budget. You look at this list, and apart from the Appaloosa in the extra deck, which Pascal even said himself he didn't even really use, it just came up in his testing, this deck can be completely built for around $100, and that's insane, and this deck is just crazy. It goes up against meta decks as well as rogue decks very well. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys why this deck is good. It's Sky Striker, but the thing is, now you're pivoting more to the Card of Demise build, but Card of Demise, funny enough, is probably the most expensive card in this deck deck now, and the deck still functions perfectly well. You've got toolbox abilities to be able to access really any card you need in any situation, to be able to handle whatever board you're getting thrown up against you. I mean, the deck is just resilient, and it's been the best deck for like the past year and a half now. I really don't have to explain why the deck is so good. So for those reasons, that's why I gave Sky Striker my number 4 slot. Now coming in at number 3, we actually have another meta deck making its way onto this list, and that's going to be Pure Thunder Dragon. Now this deck was made budget, basically due in part to the 2019 Megatins, reprinting all of the cards that are essentially in the Thunder Dragon deck, most notably the main deck monsters like Dark, Hawk, and Roar, and also Colossus and Titan. And the thing is, by reprinting all of those cards, each one of these cards is what now, like $3 to $4 a piece? So the entire core is so affordable, and you really don't need to have many other cards outside of that to really be able to build your Thunder Dragon strategy. Pure Thunder Dragon is one of the strongest decks of this current format. It's had a lot of representation of the past several events, and for good reason. Remember when I said earlier about having an unfair aspect to your deck? Well, Thunder Dragon has Colossus, and Colossus being able to shut down search ability for pretty much every other deck in the format seems pretty good. And yeah, obviously the deck has its weaknesses when you look at it against specific matchups like Orcas and things like that, but honestly, against all your other matchups, Thunder's looking pretty strong. Now, obviously, you are still gonna have to play other cards like Ash Blossom, which are also affordable now thanks to in part to Dual Devastator. Allure of Darkness is a little bit expensive at like $4 or $5 a copy, just considering the fact that it's a very good card, even though it's been reprinted into Oblivion, oddly enough. Thing is though, the deck is still entirely affordable. I think the one thing you might have to skip out on for the budget variant is cutting the Blackluster Soldier Link monster, but honestly, that's a really nice luxury to have, but it's not mandatory by any means. Thunder's able to put on so much pressure when it comes to being able to dish out damage and just really make it difficult for your opponent to play when you've got Titan being able to blow up stuff on your opponent's turn, Colossus locking them down, both monsters having pretty much immunity to being destroyed. The deck is very, very solid, and for those reasons, that's why I put Pure Thunder in my number 3 slot. But coming in at number 2, we have yet another veteran of the competitive budget list, and oh boy, it's a fan favorite. We've got Pendulum. So when it comes to Pendulum, Pendulum is very good at doing some unfair things for a very affordable price. This has been on the top end of the competitive budget list for quite some time now, and the reason for that is because all the cards in this deck are so easy to acquire because they came from either a single set being Pendulum Evolution or the Order of the Spellcaster structure deck, and then you just need like a couple of extra deck cards and you pretty much have your entire deck built right there. And there's so much power in this deck, being able to amass some absolutely absurdly powerful boards. And again, going back to what I said about needing to have an unfair aspect to your deck, Pendulum has this aspect to it. You've got cards like Jackal King that are just basically able to negate your opponent's effects. You've got stuff like Endymion that can negate spell and trap effects. You've got so many different elements and just aspects of this deck that can build a board and just make it difficult for your opponent to play through it. And sometimes your opponent just gonna scoop on turn 1 because they don't have a way to stop your plays. And just having all that for the price of about $100, what more could you really ask for? And even going second, the deck is still good. You've got unfair aspects like the Pendulum summoning mechanic, which unless you're playing a Pendulum deck, you do not have access to. It's like another special summon that you can do for free because you're playing Pendulum, and just being able to break boards going second because you just have so many threats going after your opponent one after another. It's a very resilient deck, a very strong deck. Honestly, it's a little bit underrated right now, but we've seen it's been able to get bubble spots, almost making top cuts of the past previous YCSs. The thing is, it's on people's radar, but not a lot of people are really looking into it. If you don't already have your Pendulum core, you definitely should, because it's probably the budget player's wet dream, and for those reasons, that's why I put Pendulum as my number 2 slot. But that's gonna bring us to my number 1 competitive budget deck of the November 2019 format, and if you haven't already figured it out, I'm going with Lite Orcas. I know what you're thinking, Cimo, how the hell am I supposed to afford Lite Orcas for around $100? Well, the thing is, one of the nice things about Lite Orcas is the fact that you only need to play a lone copy of Dingirsu in your extra deck, because you need to make space for all the other rank 4s and other extra deck cards that you're going to be playing because you're playing the Lite Orcas deck. This is why you're not seeing a deck like Pure Orcas on here or anything like that, because since Dingirsu is around like $30 a copy, that's acting a bit of a price barrier into playing a deck like that. But another reason is because you don't need to be playing the expensive hand traps. Pure Orcas plays a slew of different hand traps, including Phantazmay, Impermanence, and a ton of other cards that are very, very expensive. But Lite Orcas, because it's a combo deck, you're playing as many combo cards as possible. Think like the Pendulum deck we just discussed in the number 2 slot. So because you're playing cards like your Lunalite Kaleido Chick and your Tiger and your Yellow Martin, you're swapping out those defensive cards for more offensive cards to help you achieve your win condition, and not only being able to stop your opponent from hand trapping you by being able to make cards like Outer Entity as a thought, but then assembling your turn 1 board, which is just an absolute monster of a board. Being able to play cards like Abyss Dweller is insane, considering Orcas is the strongest deck of the format, and you've got other graveyard-centric decks like Salamangreat and others as well. Being able to make a Dweller on turn 1, probably easier than any other deck in the format. I definitely think that's a very big plus. You've also got access to cards like Tornado Dragon for your back row matchups. Evil Swarm Nightmare is an incredible card as well. You can even play a card like Utopia Double as a cheap win condition, and anytime you can get 2 level 4s on the field, which if you're playing Lunalight Orcas is not very difficult, and you can just steal wins left and right out of nowhere just because you've dedicated those cards into your deck. Jesse Cotton just won the UDS in Panama playing Lunalight Orcas. The deck has been able to make top cuts at YCS London as well as YCS Lima, which took place this past weekend. So Lunalight Orcas is definitely on the map, and it's definitely in that tier 1 slot, right up there with all the other decks we've discussed previously, and it can do a lot of very unfair things. And the fact that you can pick up this deck for the price that you can, honestly, if I were going to play any budget deck on this list, I would without a doubt be going with Lunalight Orcas. But guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.